Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Seattle Public Library. My name is Jonesy, and I'm a librarian here at the Central Library. Today, we are pleased to host Poets Against Hate in partnership with Raven Chronicles Press and It's About Time reading series. There are a few housekeeping details that I'd like to share with you before today's program. If you need to exit before the end of the program, please use the black door to your left. That's going to lead to our Children's Center. And this is also your emergency exit door, and if you need to use the restrooms are located on this first floor. We'll hope you'll join us here again for future events, and to find more information on those, please visit the calendar of events. That's going to be at the Seattle Public Library website, www.spl.org. Thank you very much for being here today.
Welcome to the second Poets Against Hate reading at the Seattle Public Library. There's a secret word that we're going to be looking at in that sentence. In February 2016, the first Poets Against Hate event was hosted by Raven Chronicles, and It's About Time reading series. Anyway, she's here. This year we are joined by partners Jack Straw Cultural Center, Cascadia Poetics Lab, It's About Time reading series, PONGO Poetry Project, Recovery Café's Safe Place Writing Circle, and the African American Writers Alliance. We would like to thank the following organizations for their 2024 program support. The Seattle Office of Arts and Culture for a CARE, Centering Arts and Racial Equality grant. For Culture of King County for an Arts-Sustained Support grant. Washington Arts Commission with NEA funding for a 2024 grant for small and mid-sized organizations. And the Seattle Public Library for allowing us to use this wonderful space, with special thanks to these library staff. Elizabeth Windsor, Genesee Okuni Iberi. I did that right? Close. I apologize in advance for any mangling of anybody's names. The magic word in that first line was Poets Against Hate. Now, hate's a word that we don't tend to teach our children to use much. They come in, and between the ages of 3, 4, 5, they hate Brussels sprouts, lima beans. Oh, you know what I'm saying, right? But hate is too strong a word. As a parent, I explain to my children, too strong a word. You don't prefer lima beans. Your cat will eat them for you under the table. You prefer not to eat lima beans. But we're still stuck with this hate. And we're going to be listening about how each of us tries to fling it around and make it land right, or make it land better. One of the presidential candidates the other evening, a few nights ago, was at a dinner sponsored by the Catholic Church. And he said, he looked out at the crowd and he said, half of these people love me, and half of these people hate my guts. Etymology for a second. Hating your guts. What that means. I mean, think about it a second. It means they hate you for the part of you that drives you and keeps you alive. Right? If we're parsing this right. Anyway, I'm going to start with a poem by myself, which has to do with COVID. Is it a fit target for hate? It's called Just in Time for COVID. Some nights in the throbbing, muffled, wordless neighborhood, it felt like I was called out of retirement to suit up and pinch hit in the bottom of the ninth. Just in time for COVID. Basket left on the orphanage doorstep, missed graduation, overslept, still in the nick of time, but for COVID. Somehow caught it full in the face, let havoc with both barrels, yanked awake like a water lily in the burning fingers of dawn, out of a peaceful dream, by this hammering on rooftops around the neighborhood that simply had to get shingled by flashlight this minute before it started to leak big fat tears, just like COVID. Then, for a couple years, whatever I imagined I might want or need, say the girl of my dreams, here she was about to turn my way, waving from across the street, smiling through her mask at the drawn shades where I was on lockdown here, night after day after night, me and her separate but equal, just in time to catch COVID like it was the 5-penny bus downtown to the job of my dreams. It's an interesting audience. You guys haven't laughed or cried yet. We're going to work on that. Over here we see a table of books that are for sale. The program lists the full bios of the readers. We have a short break halfway through the program and have a half hour afterward to talk to poets and look at the books for sale. But we need to be out of this place sharply at 4:30. So there is an end to the madness, an end to the party. But please don't throw things, because this is the library. You don't have to whisper them. Our first reader, Lena Kalof Tufaha, is a poet, essayist, and translator. She is currently curating a series on Palestinian writers for Words Without Borders entitled Against Silence. She's ill and can't be with us today, so I want you to invite her here in spirit. Our second reader on the list is Gabriela Gutierrez Ilus. She's a poet, a literary critic, and professor in modern languages and women, gender, and sexuality. Studies at Seattle University. Please welcome her.
Thank you. What an honor to be here with all of you. Some incredible poets. I'm so lucky to be the first to read today. I do have my little commercial that you join us for the Cascadia Poetics Lab Festival, November 1st through 3rd. If you want to see more of us, Paul Nelson and Lorna Di Cervantes. This is the poem I'm reading today. I wrote it for the Race Summit at Seattle University a couple of years ago. It's called, the title is Think Not. These days, birds are accused of shooting humans. Humans complain of invasions and displacements. The human-made MSG is attacking them. Darts of insecurity provoke migraines in them. They are at the verge of living. Think not you are dying. After COVID, we set our eyes on the horizon. We are at the verge of exploring and learning. Don't wear yourself out, said the rain. Think not that you are not rain, not liquid, not adaptable, not fluid. ¿Quién fuera árbol? Who could be a tree? Me abrazaría la bondad de las palomas, embraced by the dove's kindness. I might then feel the warmth that feathers bring in clusters. If I come to you and my teeth are shattered, think not that I am an addict. My bones are brittle, my gums are broken, but I am here to teach you that we are water. And when you eat strawberries, you are probably kissing the hand of a migrant or immigrant. Who is water? Who is an indigenous worker? And your windows get washed by them too, with water. You see, for 500 years, the Maya, Celtal, Zapotec, Mixtec, and the Pehuano people did not leave their land. It was us, the mestizos from northern Mexico, who bent over to pick the berries for Green Giant. My parents fed your parents frozen food. But now the Mayas are here, and they are not Hispanics. They do not speak Spanish, and this, too, is their land. And they kiss it with water as they work and are kissed by the rain. And I know about struggles of race because I had conversations with Barack Obama very when I was young. Like the migrants, he moved through imperial lines. He had come to the continent from Hawaii and found his blackness. Indeed, he did find it in my friend Pearl from Compton, who ended up incarcerated 2 years after graduation, after teaching Barry to be in LA. Yes, the roads taken by 2 black men taught me that this is all about race, and mostly about social class, and more than oftentimes about gender, and yes, about religion, sometimes more than it is about the rain, because we Americans don't treat Mormons, Muslims, or Jehovah's Witnesses the same. We treat them worse. As we treat the agricultural fields, the workers, the strawberries with acid rain. All about race, but mostly about social class and gender and religion, and of course about sexual preference, what we, in our small minds, prefer. Even the rain. Even the rain. And I had conversations much later with Adrienne Rich, who allowed me to know my gender privilege, as she invited me to read with her in Spanish. And that is why I'm here with you, as is the rain. Think not that your privilege, whatever it is, cannot benefit someone. Let's decolonize, re-indigenize, educate those who don't understand our Black Lives Matter quest, and heal with the rain. Take it back. We should all be free to be in the rain. Who are you taking with you? Who are you swinging with in your college privilege? In your social class privilege, in your scholarship privilege, in your owning a car privilege, in your race privilege, in your meals privilege, in your whole food privilege, in your sheet privilege, and your paper privilege, in your copying and your working privilege, in your I have an umbrella for the rain privilege, in your heteronormative white privilege, in your art privilege, in your writing privilege. Who are you taking with you? Think not you are alone. Think not they are unfettered. Think not you are superior. Think not they know less, have less, deserve less. Think not you own the reign. Think not you have worked harder than others. The Chinese built the railroads in this country. Mexicans left their homes to make most of the bricks that build homes in this country, your country. Grace is amazing, as the poet said. Compassion is grace, and humility is the future. Think not you know more than the person in front of you. Many have taught, many have shared for you to learn. Think not as if you were one person, but all the languages you could be. Think not you own the reign. Think not you are done unlearning. Think not you are done unlearning.
In the middle of last night, I went to Eric Partridge's slang dictionary and found that hate had a special meaning in World War I for the British Army. It's what the troops called in their bunkers and in their trenches. It's what they called a bombing by the Germans. It was a hate. We got a hate this morning. And usually referred to the morning bombing to soften the people up for the attack that would come later in the day. Thank you, Gabriella. Our next reader is the oldest friend I have here. And I'm an old guy, but he was very young and very precocious. Edward Harkness is the author of 4 full-length poetry collections, which I think are over here to be purchased. And he lives with his wife, his life mate Linda, in Shoreline, Washington. And he took the underground to get here today, which is pretty cool. Underground. Dude. Welcome, Ed Harkness.
Yeah, there was a delay. The train from Shoreline stopped suddenly, and we got this announcement. There's going to be a delay. I'm thinking, uh-oh. I'm going to make it. But then the train picked up speed. The poem I'm going to read here is called Transplanting Tomatoes Amid the Rubble of a Bombed School. And there are a couple of lines from other poets as epigrams, and one is, "The ceremony of innocence is drowned." You might know that line from Yeats's poem, The Second Coming. And there's, "All night pitiless, pilotless things go shrieking above us to somewhere." That's a line from Adrienne Rich and her poem, "The School Among the Ruins," which I probably kind of unconsciously had an impact on me writing the poem I'm about to read. So, the other thing to mention is the Arabic word for tomato is something like Tomatin. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that might be an okay approximation. Tomatin. Transplanting tomatoes amid the rubble of a bombed school. They are newly alive, the starts, now 6 inches, fragile in their clay pots. Traces of smoke linger still over the ruined school. I read the future as a garden of glass shards, glittering in a yard of children's mangled swings. Paper scraps whirl about as if they too were once flowers and butterflies. Some pages are wide-lined with Arabic letters, penciled by a child's hand. Here's a charred baseball cap, small, on it an emblem for the New York Yankees. You must bury them deep in a rich patch of earth, mulched, watered, tended to. Their root balls might survive our merciless age if in soil with good drainage. What you will do is place a sign, a wooden stake with the Arabic word tamatin written large enough for the sniper, the Merkava tank crew, to see, to be human once more, to hold their fire this close to new green lives. There are countless bodies under the collapsed school walls, their names buried, erased. I'll plant tomatum here as an experiment to treat the wounded ground, to learn if my seedlings, with just formed flowerlets, will ripen into fruit. Everyone has tasted, whose name, whose tart sweetness no tongue will ever forget.
Well, how are we doing? Our next reader, Carletta Carrington-Wilson, is an honored librarian, for one thing, just to keep that in perspective. Her literary and visual works merge as literary works, artist books, installations, and collages. And Raven Chronicles has published her current book, which is right there on, you can see it from here. So if you haven't looked at it yet, or if you haven't read it yet, please partake. And now, please welcome Carletta Carrington-Wilson.
Thank you for being here today. What can I get a witness? Witness, witness. The poem, Letter to a Laundress, is also the title of an installation by the same name. It wasn't until I was composing the poem, however, that the last lines, the content of which dramatically shifted. I was writing into the 19th century to my great-great-grandmother. I did not expect an answer to a question I never asked. On February 2nd, 2017,
Letter to a Laundress was on exhibit at the King Street station. A woman wanted to know which pieces were from South Carolina. I showed her one. When I finished discussing the connection to lynching, she shared how she was from North Carolina. She said they would go to a lynching after church. How so many people went like it was an outing. That they laid the person out after having lynched him on a blanket while they picked pieces of him to take home. She said she had done a DNA test, and it was shown that she had some African blood, that there were family members upset by her revelations. I'm also going to be in the Cascadia Poetry Festival, November 1st through 3rd. Letter to a Laundress. You taught her well. They said she had the touch. The wrinkled, soiled shirts made them like new, especially collars and cuffs. Her hands mirror yours, lifting, picking, piece by piece apart. Ink, sweat, blood, mud, grass, vomit. What to do with dirty looks, foul language, rank stench, shadowy stains that remain after all that scrubbing, deftly rubbing, and no way out. Ringer, iron holder, washed woman, leaning in line with lines, untenable lines, whose far-reaching consequences found you standing in the path of a past on its way to the future. My line of inquiry, like the lines of this letter, crosses lines never meant to be crossed, only crossed out, bleached, faded away, in the way blood's unlettered lines meet their deadlines. Drawn into silence, the line of her lips, like you, she was made of all work, made to serve, made of service, made to serve the soil. Washing stick, lime peg, live soap, bluing, sort, assorted, all that heaviness never done, the work of daughters who keep company with cloth. A dryness fitted to fingers that soak, boil, scrub, rub, pour, rinse, wring. Tightly wring. Wrung out dampness, riveted to iron, fold over, keep pressing on. Hoist baskets, tote tubs, lug those loads. Every bundle extends a line awaiting its hangings. Lines stretch their length across the yard, beyond which lie the waters, well water, lake water, spring water, creek water, in rain, falling rain, a sorrowing soaked riversides, in creek-bed grief. Who there, drenched by despair? Oh, mother, mothers of blue, blue waters, who hung from those knotted lines.
thought I'd try this. Does this sound any better? Better? Booming off this surface. I'm stepping back from it, so booming off the surface. Well, let's try this. Our next reader in Spires was Vashon Island's inaugural poet laureate. She's a gem. She's my second oldest friend here.
Second oldest in years and wisdom. How's that? Thank you for inviting me. I remember the first reading, and I remember because I met Solange Sanchez that day. I'm going to read about Asian restaurants. Growing up, the only interesting thing between Aloha and the ravine, the Arboretum and Volunteer Park was the Chinese restaurant. Everything else was pretty familiar to all the rest of us post-World War II Catholics, 5 to 14 to 16 kids. And then when we got older, it was Japanese restaurants. And the Japanese young men at Garfield and Cleveland and Franklin wouldn't look at us Catholic girls with our teased hair and white lipstick and lots of black stuff over our eyes. The poem I'm going to read is The I in It Is Me, and I've learned in the last 20 years what it's like to spar with hate, racial hate, and how to know that there's joy in having grandchildren who do go to Franklin, who are less white than Asian. It's taken, how many generations to get there, but Seattle does that for us. And also, my kids had the restaurant, Le Lek, a Thai restaurant, Little Uncle, at 14th and Madison. Oh, good, it was the best, right? Just the best. So the other relative of sorts was Toshi's Teriyaki. And in the last decade, the teriyaki restaurants have sort of moved over to being first and early second generation Korean. So this is about Rainier Teriyaki, but I named it Teriyaki Chicken. Waiting with the kids for our takeout of teriyaki, 1 beef, 2 chicken. I twisted my chair, scoping out an exit in case of random trouble. I grew up in a large family and needed exits. Sat in an old school with no fire escapes, and walked paths with bears, purse snatchers, sinkholes, and relatives. The back way out of this eatery is through the split cloth curtains, into the kitchen, past the grill, down the hall lined with walk-ins, past the no public restroom, to the back door with a huge bolt that needs strength and familiarity to slide open quickly. If any threat enters through the front door, I know what to do. Being foresightful, I've rehearsed my response. I'll point the kids through the split curtain, and as they run home, I'll rise and execute a full body slam, shoulder leading to the floor, the evil one. I am ever ready, riding shotgun to drama in the strip mall. Once home, we eat chicken, beef, and sticky rice, happy, warm, while 3 hold-up teens arrive back in the neon and deep-fry air. The one with a gun in his belt waits for the surprise of the chef banging in from the kitchen. His daughter at the cash register, wife cutting chives, son at the sink, and granddaughter shaking life into the carry-out bags. The gun goes off, the father on the floor dying. We hear the sirens and more sirens, and then the news breaking. Hear no more updates. We drive by to witness silence, flowers. On the door, the closed sign hung.
Mark S. Johnson volunteers with PONGO Poetry Project at King County Children and Family Justice Center, also known as Julie. Please welcome him. Mark, come on up.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. The poem I have was prompted by something I read in a New York Times article. It appears as an epigram. It says, one textbook publisher studies weekly revised an elementary school textbook so that Rosa Parks' story no longer included references to segregation or race. I thought I'd help them out. So this is called Revising Sister Rosa. One day, a woman boarded a bus and sat down. The driver told her to move to the back because, well, she knew why. She didn't. Some police came by and put her in jail. Other people thought this unfair and stopped riding the bus. And that was most everybody from some neighborhoods. They walked and made carpools. Other people thought the woman who wouldn't move and her friends were wrong. Somebody burned down some houses and churches. Nobody went to jail for that, though, because, well, everybody knew why. After the Supreme Court said the woman who wouldn't move was right, some more houses burned and snipers shot at buses. Nobody went to jail for that either. The woman who wouldn't move got death threats, and when she lost her job in Birmingham and couldn't get another, she moved to Detroit. The lesson, children, is in America, if you don't like where you live, you can just move. And maybe you should because, well, everybody knows why.
Our next reader, Carolyn Wright, is a Seattle native. Spent a year in Chile on a Fulbright Hayes study grant during the presidency of Salvador Allende. And she lived to tell the tale. Please welcome Carolyn Wright.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, is it on? Oh, okay. I thought I was loud enough without it on. Anyway, I'm just going to take a sip of this water. If anybody else has had it, we're all family. Okay, I regret to let you know that Eugenia cannot be here. She now lives in Sultan, Washington, with her husband David and their son Frank. And they both had their COVID shots the other day, and apparently that's had quite an effect on them. So she let me know that she would not be able to be here, with great regret, and she sends her warmest regards to everybody. So I'm going to read her poem from this book, Map Traces, Blood Traces, also Trazas de Mapa, Trazas de Sangre. It's bilingual. She wrote the Spanish and then I translated it to English in consultation with her.
And everything is bilingual, including the introductions and the translator's notes and everything. And there's some copies over there. And he was very much honored to receive a finalist designation from the Washington State Book Awards in, I think it was 2018. Okay, so the poem I'm going to read is called Tombs Without Names. It refers to a number of, actually over about 1,300 people, maybe more, maybe there's been later counts, but who were buried in Patio 29, patio number 29, in the General Cemetery, the Cementerio General in Santiago, Chile. They were buried there. They were unidentified bodies of people who were basically, arrested, detained, held in the stadiums, the football stadiums. There are two of them. There was the Estadio Nacional and Estadio Chile. Estadio Chile was where Victor Jara was taken, when he was tortured and finally shot. And more recently, they have identified the guilty people, not just the person who pulled the trigger, but the officer who gave the orders. But Victor Jara was quite well known, but all these other people who were unidentified, they were buried there in that patio numero 29 between September and December of 1973, and some other people later. And if you get the book, you can see that there's a website or a link to Archivos Chile, about El Silencio del Cementerio, the silence of the cemetery. So the poem is called Tombs Without Names, because the term in Spanish was just NAM, which means sin nombre. And at the end, there's a reference to the lists that were read out in the stadium, which means all the people who were basically summoned to appear to be arrested in those stadiums. Tombs Without Names. To those never named on television or in the morning papers, in history books, on the graves where it's alleged they were buried, or in the place where they fell. To those never named who lived and loved, laughed. They were children once. They slept in their mother's arms. They were brothers, cousins, uncles. They were somebody. To those never named who are beams in certain eyes, blood on the hands of some, or who dwell in the uneasy conscience of others. Those who have no name, and yet, though diluted by the rain, gone with no hope of return, they are still listening when the lists are read out in the stadium. And because Eugenia's not here, I'm going to read it in her stead. I will read it in Spanish, so excuse my accent. Tumbas sin nombres. A los nunca nombrados en la televisión o en los diarios matutinos, en los libros de historia, en las tumbas donde se alega fueron enterrados o en el lugar donde cayeron. A los nunca nombrados que vivieron y amaron, rieron, fueron una vez niños, durmieron en los brazos de sus madres, fueron hermanos, primos, tíos, fueron alguien. A los nunca nombrados que son vigas en ciertos ojos, sangre en las manos de algunos, o viven en la conciencia intranquila de otros. Los que no tienen nombre, y sin embargo, aunque diluidos por la lluvia, idos sin remedio, aún oyen cuando les pasan lista en el estadio. Gracias.
next reader, Eugenia Toledo, was born in...
Nope.
She's not?
I read her poem.
Oh, you read her poem, I'm sorry. Okay. There's our next reader is Michael Hugo, formerly of Seattle, veteran of the arts underground, is a poet, actor, musician, and has been engaged in the struggle to restore civilization in the Western world for decades.
Can you hear me? Oh, yes. This just goes to show that you can take the boy out of the pretense, but you can't take the pretentious out of the boy. Anyway, I'm called to mind a marvelous quote from James Baldwin, who talked about, I don't remember what the exact quote was, but he spoke about what a terribly expensive thing it is to be poor. And I've just finished up 4 months of living in a Motel 6 with my two sisters in Medford, Oregon, where we saw, for want of a better description, a replay of the migration from the Dust Bowl, people living out of their cars. And she's saying, so Medford was an enormously wealthy part of Oregon. Very beautiful, but harsh if you don't have a lot of nickels. So this is a fellow I saw walking down the street. I was running an errand one day, and he was traveling past me. So this is called the Caravan. The Caravan bicycles past, its 3 large loads of whichever, its colored sheets wobbling against the bungee cords holding it together. The driver pedals furiously in his effort to get where he is going before it all falls again. But as he rolls 3 bicycle lengths ahead, the entire load hits the pavement. The driver is a big man in Carhartts with a face that looks like it is carved out of creamstone, off yellow and stern. His screams as he jumps off the bike and kicks the 3 clumpy bundles aside. He screams. And he screams as he pulls the bungees loose. He screams. The passerby stops and turns, thinks about assisting him, and rethinks as he watches the men kick and scream, because now one of the bundles is falling apart, spilling clothes, a thermos, a smaller bundle. The man is now screaming and beating one of the other bundles with a bungee cord, and he raises his outstretched arms to heaven, pulling and stretching at the bungee as he does so, as he screams some more. And the passerby turns and returns to his way, listening as the screams follow him up the street, the screams in an almost even competition with the roar of the freeway underpass. The screams and the roar and the screams, the sounds of freedom in the fading afternoon.
We're going to take a brief intermission, 5 minutes. Go back up. The old farmer says he keeps the outhouse down by the garden for summertime balmy weather just because it's never cost him a bit of trouble with a roof the lost has held together 50 years. Though the door still works and sticks, you learn to leave it stuck for the ventilation, besides which it's only sensible to keep a backup for all indoor plumbing, which needs to be kept in its place, which can be noisy and damp, which is relentlessly vindictive, and at the very least will always choose Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, to gush like old faithful overflow onto your mother-in-law's good shoes, which requires a whole nother facility at the end of a short calming stroll, with toilet paper safe in its coffee can, with a hole so wide and deep, you know nothing could plug it. Not the likes of a turkey dinner, nothing short of a whole busted sofa, so stout and safe its only moving part, the hinge on the seat, you can't break. Hatred of plumbing? For years, with 2 different wives, I was always working on somebody's plumbing on Christmas, Thanksgiving, or Easter. Anyway, just to kind of get us back into the flow. Laura E. Gerard, right? A cancer thriver, writes from her home in Olympia National Park and supports clients healing through body work in Port Angeles, Washington. Please welcome her. Laura Gerard.
My name is pronounced Gerard, and it's okay that you mispronounce it, it's pretty common. Welcome to the second half. How's everyone feeling? Is everyone all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'm so honored to read among such accomplished poets here today. I came in support of decreasing stigmas, stereotypes, discrimination of all types. The poem I will read is published in a series I write called Poetry That Fits on PennMedicine's OncoLink.com cancer information website that has a creative inspiration section for patients. The poem is also in a full-length manuscript I'm trying to get published. I wrote this poem in 2022 when I was about to begin treatment for multiple myeloma. It's a rare blood plasma cancer in the bone marrow. It's shocking, upsetting what people will say to cancer patients, even medically. The assumptions, projections, not based on true evidence, that may persuade an individual toward ineffective decisions. But also, there is a stigma that follows a patient, a friend, a colleague, family member. If their condition is ongoing, chronic, terminal, and isn't awarded the all-clear or cancer-free label. The fact is, we are all going to die. The fact is, people with disease are living people. And I'm here to say I have a chronic, potentially terminal disease. And with medicines, I am very much alive, mostly healthy, and have hope of a future cure through scientific discovery. My poem is called Stigmatized and Written Off. Stigmatized and written off. 3 close friends of mine opt out. The last thing said, it's treatable, right? Yesterday I read an athlete obit, younger man dies in Yesterday I read an athlete obit, younger man dies in a kayak accident. So alive was he, everyone in shock. His abrupt memorial packed, no doubt. But what of those who linger on? Letting go is a large lesson in life and death facing. There's almost an inward scoff, no more energy for outward response to those unconsciously saying, sorry that you've got cancer cells running all over your body. Or so you're going to do the killing yourself thing to live? Yes, these things are said, surprised by ignorance, false confidence, in a culture that worships youth and wealth. Well, I don't plan to die just yet. Is that okay with you? And not every subsequent health issue is another cancer. Sorry, does this disappoint your need to assume that for me it's all over? I'm folding myself into poetry patter. Yes, writing myself in for whatever time I have to spend, and with those friends who will have me outlive them. Dumped due to an impending death. You're damn right I care about that. Aren't we all headed that way? Most don't deny and set me aside. I thank God for this every day.
Our next reader, so sorry for mangling your name, I apologize. Pauline Gates is from Seattle, Washington. She writes poetry and stories, including about living with disability issues. Please welcome Pauline Gates.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. This was inspired by a prompt of the poems of Lucille Clifton. And one of the lines I'm going to read is going to make you think about where you're sitting right now. And that's because the struggle is real and it never really stops. This is called Round Like the Moon. I am a doll that God decided to overstuff. I have been struck with abundance of despair, abundance of need, the need to give. If I plunged my hands inside myself, started handing out slick handfuls of whatever is within, how long until I run out of things to give? My body expands my boundaries while simultaneously erecting obstacles. I gain pound after pound of knowledge, shed tons of grief, but no one wants to hear that weight loss story. Just a minor mistake to be corrected, right? But hearing someone say they want to lose weight is like hearing someone say they want to change their eye color or their sexuality. I wasn't born this way. I was a fatally underweight preemie when I started out. Whether genetics or eating disorder or medicinal side effect or all of the above, I am wrapped in an adipose shield of consequences. Science says diets don't work. The rest of the world says, do it anyway. Do you change to fit the world or do you change the world to fit you? How much compromise does there have to be? No, you can't fit your arms around me, but you can still love me. There's so much to love. I'll handle all the hate, I'm used to it. I'm used to the pain of chair arms cutting off the circulation in my hips. I'm used to trying to squeeze uncomfortably into a booth. I'm used to worrying if a chair will support me. I'm used to being too big to ride a ride. Used to the seatbelt not reaching. Used to people frowning and moving aside. Used to people laughing at, not with. And used to begrudging acceptance, to the, oh, but you're okay, I didn't mean you. I'm used to looking for what I want, what I deserve, clothes that fit, seats that fit, a world that thinks about me, and never finding it. I've been overdone, an overfed, overwatered, overgrown, overabundance of body. And there is nothing left to do but share myself with the world. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when you have more than you need of something? How can I be so much and yet feel so small? Thank you.
Our next reader, Pauline Nelson, poet and interviewer founded the Cascadia Poetics Lab and the Cascadia Poetry Festival. Please welcome Paul Nelson.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Phoebe, for having me here. The 8th Cascadia Poetry Festival is going to be at the Hugo House and a couple of other venues, November 1st through the 3rd. And there's a little primer at the Hugo House. Margin Shift will have some of the readers at the fest. I have bookmarks. It will be the launch of Cascadian Zen Volume 2, and I have the galley here, so we're hoping the rest of the books get delivered. If that's for me, I'm not here. I'm grateful to be here. My first book was called The Time Before Slaughter. Slaughter is the original name of Auburn, Washington. It was named after Lieutenant William Alloway Slaughter, who died in the quote-unquote Indian Wars. So Slaughter is a town, it's a man, and it's hate, or trying to crush people's dreams, or trying to control them in some way. And this is the last of, this is poem end of the first book, 10 parts, Elegies for Slaughter. This is number 10. After summer rain, angels would trample the wet grounds outside the carnival of glands, and yet dead poets always get the last word. Perhaps time sweetens with each deeply felt elegy. We see their picture as if they'd live forever the day before the Times writes their obit. It is the rare July, angled rain can eat northwest faces, shudder what's left of the white blossoms who refuse to complain about their well-timed descent. Unlike Slaughter, the trees, the Nootka rose, wild ginger, Sitka, columbine, dogwood, Indian paintbrush, the fireweed remain neutral, hold, like Tahoma does, the resonance of every step and waits patient for us to honor our greed. Inside, in silence, except for Friday night car tires humming on wet road below the sound waves of Earth cutting through space, underneath the dimmest constellation and the sound of the lonely night's last freight train horn, dead poets pose as angels, send metaphors for your verse, remind you the whole world's alive inside that green wheel spinning in your chest. Making a mandala of spent matches from lit prayer candles and pink rose blossoms offered to the lady. You are only a reflection of the skill your parents had in the lightning flash that became you and for which you yearn to return, endlessly checking the weather forecast while the stuck river rolls beyond the spot of diversion. You get a hernia as your marriage falls apart, or your nose bleeds for recognition, but the grace saving you is the extraordinary patience of dead poets. Dead poets in the garden scaring raccoons. Dead poets animating the cat's eyes for a moment, moving molecules to drop white blossoms for your amusement. Dead poets caught in your throat in a fetal position, like latent antepasados, turning the last blood fire burn into your richest, deepest song. Sunlight's headed south now, faster than the cat can comprehend, makes the tips of stuck waves more white, animates coyote's smile, lubricates the stunts of stellar jays, keeps light shining on Slaughter, not waiting for better weather. And a poet you knew will become that light, or that latent angel, or that force moving molecules to amuse your evening walk faster than your aging synapses can flash across their gap. He who could live beyond the last parenthesis, she who could hold fire in her hand. He who makes better weather for those who honor their ancestral land. She who marks the northwest July sun's closing arson, orange, and apricot rays in skin, blood fire, and melted wax. She who taps the never-ending flow can withstand every parlor trick Slaughter could ever conjure with a rare commitment to every blossoming every species has ever known.
Lorna D. Cervantes is a native Californian, Chumash Chicana poet and award-winning author of 6 books of poetry. Please welcome.
Thank you. Another little plug for the Cascadia Poetry Festival, November 1st to the 3rd, which is also Dias de Muertos. And on November 2nd, I happen to be serving on the board of directors now for the Cascadia Poetics Lab. And November 2nd, in the evening, we're going to have, for the first time, Floricanto Cascadia. And a monopoem reading, open mic. It's free and open to the public. Poets reading poems to and for the dead, November 2nd. I'm going to read a poem I wrote 50 years ago. And unfortunately, it's still relevant. Freedom is a constant struggle. Poem for the young white man who asked me how I, an intelligent, well-read person, could believe in the war between races. In my land, there are no distinctions. The barbed wire politics of oppression have been torn down long ago. And the only reminder of past battles lost or won is a slight running in the fertile fields. In my land, people write poems about love, full of nothing but contented, childlike syllables. Everyone reads Russian short stories and weeps. There are no borders. There is no hunger, no complicated famine or greed. I am not a revolutionary. I don't even like political poems. Do you think I can believe in a war between races? I can deny it. I can forget about it. Whenever I'm safe, living on my own continent of harmony and home. But I am not there. I believe in revolution because everywhere the crosses are burning, sharp-shooting goose-steppers round every corner, and I am marked by the color of my skin. I know there sharp-shooting goose-steppers round every corner. There are snipers in the schools. I know you don't believe this. You think this is nothing but faddish exaggeration. But they are not shooting at you. I'm marked by the color of my skin. The bullets are discreet and designed to kill slowly. And they are aiming at my children. And these are facts. Let me show you my wounds, my stumbling mind, my excuse me tongue, and this nagging preoccupation with the feeling of not being good enough. These bullets bury deeper than logic. Racism is not intellectual. I cannot reason these scars away. Outside my door, there is a real enemy who hates me. And I am a poet who yearns to dance on rooftops, to whisper delicate lines about joy and the blessings of human understanding. And I try. I go to my land, my tower of words, and bolt the door. But the typewriter doesn't fade out. The sounds of the blasting, the screams, the muffled outrage. My own days bring me slaps on the face. Every day I am deluged with reminders that this is not my land. And this is my land. I do not believe in the war between races, but in this country, there is a war.
That occurred to me as I was reading it. It's happening, it's happening.
Jacqueline J. Ware is a member artist with For Culture Touring Artists and the African American Writers Alliance. Please welcome Jacqueline J. Ware.
Ooh, mercy. That's gonna be some kind of poem to follow, okay? Wow, that is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It feels like today. That is a fact. Oh my gosh, the children and the shooting and the schools, yes. Okay, maybe I should do my poem. All right, so I am so moved by that. Okay, so yes, my name is Jay. I'm a member of the African American Writers Alliance, and I'm so happy to be in the Seattle Public Library. One day I want to sit in one of those chairs. And I really want to thank Raven Chronicles for opening up this opportunity. It's wonderful. And of course, Dr. Georgia McDade is present. She is one of the charter members of the African American Writers Alliance. And I do believe that without her, I would not be where I am today, and I appreciate her so much. So I took it literally. Poets Against Hate, and usually I will write something brand new. If it's a theme and I don't have anything that hits the mark, I'm gonna write something brand new. So this is brand new. That my son has heard and a couple of other people have heard, because I want to know what you think. What you think? This is called Hate Takes a Break. So you need to know, first of all, what does hate take a break from? Anyway. So we're going to start with that. So this is a poem, this is prose, but it's also a story. Hate was as giddy as a kid in the candy store, cheesing from ear to ear, bubbling over, singing, hallelujah, giving thanks and praise for all the anguish and fear. I'm telling you, hate. Hate couldn't be more pleased than a dog with two tails, wagging gleefully at the rise in suicides, homicides, and overcapacity jail cells. Hate jumped for joy, dancing with the stars, Lindy hopping with the cow over the moon, flooding mankind with wave after wave after wave of deception, doom and gloom, sons dying, mothers driven to tears, fathers drowning sorrows in Scotland's snake venom beer. Hate was flying high as a kite, floating comfortably on cloud nine, tickled a bubblegum pink, enjoying every moment of pain and distress, bringing humanity to the brink. Hate was as pleased as punch, surveying the destruction and damage it caused, rarely taking a deep breath, a nap, or a second to pause. Spinning lies, spreading false narratives faster than the speed of sound, ensuring the was buried well beneath the ground. Hate is kind of like a roaring lion, roaming up and down hills, valleys, and city streets, seeking to devour every juicy ounce of happiness and peace, with drug addiction, robberies, assaults, and continuous deceit. As a matter of fact, hate skipped through the loo of racism, bigotry, increased hostility, chamber pots filled to the brim with nauseating greed and brutality. That hate was happy as a clam to see wars and rumors of wars become a reality. An intoxicating reality. Man unable to control a thirst and hunger for suffering and untold travesties, relishing all the heartache, suffering, confusion, misinformation caused. Hate walked to center stage, took a bow, basking in imaginary applause. Hate was in seventh heaven, feeling as full as a tick, stuffed with all the harm done, feeling intense satisfaction with how easily human beings could be bamboozled, tricked. The scene was set. Script firmly in hand, actors rehearsing lines having bought into their part. Negativity, hopelessness, anxiously awaiting for the final act to start. Weakness and vulnerabilities laid bare. Hate left no stone unturned without a worry or a care. I swear, hate even sucked the life out of an innocent child's prayer. Hate took a break. Hate took a break to revel in all the mess, mayhem, debauchery, century after century, humans seized by anger, animosity, retreating to the lavish Trump Bay Beach, laughing at wasted sermons ministers preached, sipping on cruising confusion, bushwhacker, and lime in the coconut, he drank them all up. Love, peace, and forgiveness, having felt a shift in the air, quickly went around making necessary, critical, essential repairs before hate could fully recover, regain a foothold on mankind. The work was well underway, the script rewritten, removing all that was insane, cruel, vicious, hurtful, and in disarray. Hate gnashed its teeth, foaming at the mouth, fuming at the mistake it had made. Banned books became available, again hiding in the closet, pages turning in the street. Joy crawled from underneath a rug, hopscotching, skipping to a jazzy beat. Kindness did a quick step, emerging from a hidden cave. Laughter was as giddy as a bug. Determined to be beautiful, bold, and brave, dogs gleefully wag their one tail. Bright sunny skies replaced dark clouds swollen with baseball-sized hail. Children begin to feel safe attending school, excited to learn math, reading, science, compound molecules. Wars and rumors of wars were no longer reality. Honesty, integrity, a refreshing change from vulgarities. Racism, bigotry, discrimination was kicked to the curb. Believe me when I tell you. Hate was stark, brave, mad. Livid, perturbed. Babbling, hate struggled to make any sense. The weak-minded blindly running to its defense. Hate screamed profanities at the top the best of humanity was on full display. And might I like that? And I might add, they were determined to keep it that way. Thank you.
Raul Sanchez is the former City of Redmond Poet Laureate. He teaches bilingual poetry through the Jack Straw Cultural Center. Please welcome Raul Sanchez.
Thank you. The word hate, there are many things that could qualify for that if we allowed ourselves to use that word. Speaking of that, what do you think would be one word that would youth, a young person would hate to be in, would even say that would be being imprisoned in jail? Have any of you ever been arrested for no reason? You spend how many time or 24 hours in that precinct or longer, you'll understand that that situation is really not a good environment. I volunteer for PONGO, through PONGO, the Juvenile Detention Center here. I always wanted to do it for a long time, and I just was waiting for the time to have the time to do it. And that happened once I retired, and I talked to the people there, and I got involved. I'm going to use that activity and what I learned there for the youth as a way of changing my view and approach to the youth, not only because of the people that are in there, but because of some of my sons having incarcerated. In my case, it was the case of mistaken identity because they looked like the guy we were looking for. The whole story is in the first book, if you're interested. My experience at the detention center and why I became interested in mentoring the youth in detention. There are seeds that are blown by the wind. There are seeds that are planted by human beings. Those seeds will grow into beautiful flowers and trees. Those are the powerful seeds of knowledge mankind needs. The seeds will germinate, throwing roots, expanding like fingers, grabbing hold of the earth. The roots contain well-being, grandiosity, wisdom, virtue, truth, pride, glory, faith, harmony, agreement, disagreement, tranquility, ancestry, principle. The roots will give way to the branches, providing leaves, foliage, and fruit. Reason must be at the base of all that flourishes. Think of the dervishes' dance, who whirl and whirl away. There's a cosmic dance throughout the human forest, where we encounter people from different places and different faces. I am one of those trees. I unraveled my branches to provide food and shelter to the seeds I planted. These days, I share fruit and shelter with the youth in perilous situations. Compassion and an open heart are the tools I use to help them free themselves from the trauma and pain in their heart. Poetry is a carving tool I use to remove the stumps that hold them down. The words come out of their hearts like seeds germinating to create their own poems. Poetry they didn't realize they already had. You see them. When the young are praised, their faces gleam like the sunshine in the early spring. Their poems are gems, strung like diamonds after rain. And I really mean it. You have tried. You feel you're just, oh, I'm a poet. I am a poet. Be a poet. Get involved. Let the poetry live and flourish from somebody who hasn't known a lick of those words, how they mean, how beautiful they sound once they see it on the page and they give to somebody. That is poetry. Thank you.
Sylvia Byrne Pollock is a hard-of-hearing poet and retired cancer researcher. Sylvia Byrne Pollock, come up. Welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you all. I want to thank Raven Chronicles and, of course, the Seattle Library for having us here today. And I thought about what to read, and I thought about reading somebody important, one of the wonderful poets of protest, or perhaps some confessional poetry. But I ended up thinking, well, maybe I could read some of my deaf woman poems, which are very political. But then I finally, partly in the provocation of wherever she is here, Peggy Sturtevant, there she is, decided to read a new short poem that came out of a writing group that I go to, that Peggy is often there. So this is called An Other Invocation. The edifice under construction by MAGA America, framed with studs of certainty, built with bricks of belief, decorated with chintz, so laced with holes it provides neither cover nor comfort to a non-believer. Has no room for a Jewish, lesbian, scientist poet. They are certain she is woke, although neither she nor they know exactly what that means, if it's actually an appalling way to be. Labels are easy, sticky with fears and resentments. They are simple to slap onto anyone we deem to be other. We learn early to make distinctions up, down, red, blue, and assuredly us, them. Dutch versus Belgians, Brahmin versus Shudras, Hutu versus Tutsi. In school, we are taught to compare and contrast, but work that into better than, less than. No wonder othering morphs into conflict and outright war. But we are not helpless. Nurture holds hands with nature as co-creators. We can choose to nurture what connects us. We can starve hate, letting it wither like an unloved houseplant. We can add just 2 letters to other and create together.
Breathing. Esther Altschul Healthgut. Altschul Old School Health Gut. Help of God. Right? Help of God. That's your name. is a Seattle poet, writer, and the author of 2 books on Alzheimer's and 1 book on homelessness. And she's in cahoots with all of us who are trying to get poetry out there. Please welcome Esther Holcomb.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you all for being here, and Phoebe and Paul for organizing this. In my dream, patience covers the earth like a down blanket that warms fingers in Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Georgia, the West Bank, Gaza, Israel, Africa, Bosnia, the United States. In my dream, humility is a mansion whose roof oversees soldiers shedding guns and whose rooms house world leaders shaking hands. In my dream, gentleness is no coward. Love is borderless. Beams of light have not replaced the 2 towers. Danny Pearl is alive. In my dream, poetry raises children who know peace. Thank you.
Jared Zemer is an MFA student in creative writing at Western Colorado University and a 2024 Jack Straw Fellow. Please welcome Jared Zemer.
Deep breath. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to Jack Straw for this opportunity. Thank you to my wife for being here. We are 1 month away from our first child. Yeah. So, every trip is a big one for us. So I was thinking about what I would say before reading this poem. And what's really come to me today, I think, is forgiveness. In consideration of hate, maybe one of the most powerful forces against it would be forgiveness. I think in a lot of ways that's forgiving yourselves, forgiving others. There was a triggering moment for this poem, and I forgive that person. He's not here, but if he hears this or if he did, I forgive him. So this is These Brazil Nut Negatoes. These negatoes, bent below arched soles, run real fast. These negatoes run real fast. These negatoes are full, involuted, tip negatoe across this floor. These negatoes are full, complex. These negatoes are etched brackish from nigga work. These negatoes are attached to blackish nigga feet. And spring come. After long winter, these negatoes, the whitest part of this pale nigga body, are a reflection of the code switching this black and white nigga man learned early. These negatoes are lengthy appendages, erudite ligaments with moving, wiggling minds of their own. These negatoes. I said these negatoes are attached to blackish black feet, so these negatoes are dancing in the mud. Dance the mud dance of my nigga people. And because these are erudite negatoes, are monkey toes, and are capable themselves, they're pouring one out for the homies. These nigga toes come with no content warning, but I am warning you, these nigga toes are capable. Do you even know what these nigga toes are? These nigga toes are not Brazil nuts. These nigga toes are just Brazil nuts. The Caucasian man at the Christmas party with no content warning so politely told everybody as he crunched with my pride and forehead sweat, a nigger toe, proud and black, tough to crack into a nutcracker. We used to call these nigger toes. Well, Mr. White Man, for so long I wanted an apology, but the truth is, these nigga toes do not need your apology. See, these nigga toes run real fast. As fast as goddamn lightning. These nigga toes are capable of life-giving kicking and tender two-step forgiving. These nigga toes curl in life's ecstasies. These nigga toes dip in sweet duende water, swirl entire seas before releasing body, before brethren breathing heavy in silent rooms. These nigga toes are attached to these silent rooms, you quiet people and silent things, these little secrets the world saves for me. These nigga toes are attached to pale, blackish feet that lift to shins, that carry a body blessed just to be nigga. These nigga toes are blackish beauties, dark black flowering ponies, cracked, crinkled, rippled, erudite, black. Thank you.
We are in each other's debt here today. A little closing piece called This Far Out Along the Edge. And it's all true, and it's all straight up. The county line road that ran down the middle of our farm showed about how well these two jurisdictions got along. One Democrat, one Republican. Some years the dusty gravel went unscraped, unrolled, would wear endless chuck holes and ruts with jolts everyone had to suffer that neither seemed likely to own. Then some years might garner a little too much attention, yet graded and ditched by both sides, trying to turn that election year runoff into profit, help direct into any friendly voters' crops. Though we didn't all vote anyhow this far out along the edge. The back road still ran both ways, bound for one town or the other, where everybody knew the score, where farmers from both counties with their hats pulled low, narrowly minding their business, forced to yield, heading both ways, made to eat each other's dust, downshifted, took it easy, and still had the manners to wave.